The thought that if you don't do what we like, then we will just get rid of you and march on and do it ourselves, that to me is fascism. Those are the words of Rusty Bowers, the current Republican Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives, referring to the attempted coup in January of 2021. Fascism is the word he used. Rusty Bowers has had a long career in conservative politics. He has served multiple Arizona districts in both chambers of the state legislature. But in just a few months, he will be out of office. Bowers lost his GOP primary for a state Senate seat by more than 20 points against former state Senator David Farnsworth. Farnsworth is an advocate of the big lie, claiming that the 2020 presidential election had been stolen from Trump by the devil himself. This extreme loyalty, of course, earned Farnsworth the endorsement of former President Trump. Meanwhile, Bowers, a former supporter of Trump, committed the heresy of testifying against the defeated and disgraced former president in June, telling the January 6th committee how the White House unsuccessfully pressured him to help reverse the Arizona vote and how Trump put words into his mouth.
To quote the former president, during the conversation, he told me the election was rigged and that I won Arizona, unquote. Did you have such a conversation with the president?
I did have a conversation with the president. That certainly isn't it. Anywhere, anyone, anytime has said that I said the election was rigged, that would not be true.
For speaking truth to power, Bowers, a Reagan-quoting conservative who, again, voted for Trump in 2016 and 2020, is now persona non grata with Republicans in his state. That's because the Arizona Republican Party is now a big lie party. As Robert Draper of the New York Times Magazine reported this month, party figures from Trump down have sought to blacklist every Arizona GOP official who maintained that the election was fairly won, from Governor Doug Ducey to Rusty Bowers. Such leaders have been condemned as rhinos or Republicans in name only, today's equivalent of the McCarthy era's fellow travelers. Core activists, as well as a growing number of officials and those campaigning for governmental positions, openly espouse hostility not just to democratic principles, but increasingly to the word democracy itself. To see that hostility, just look at some current Republican candidates in Arizona, like the GOP Senate nominee Blake Masters, who seems to back the racist Great Replacement theory, or the Secretary of State nominee and one-time Oath Keepers militia member Mark Fincham, or the nominee for governor, the Trump-adoring media provocateur Kari Lake.
They just want this open border. This is their policy program. They're doing this so that someday they can amnesty these people and make them voters who they expect to vote Democrat.
Ladies and gentlemen, we know it, and they know it. Donald Trump won.
Issue a warrant for Anthony Fauci's arrest out of Arizona.
I wonder why President Biden used the term semi-fascist last week to describe the MAGA movement, a description that the president is likely to expand on with his scheduled primetime speech this Thursday on what he calls the continued battle for the soul of the nation. Semi-fascist. Republicans are appalled, outraged, hurt that President Biden would use such a term about them. But ultimately, this is not about Republicans versus Democrats. It's about the MAGA movement versus American democracy. And if you need evidence, just look at what happened to, again, lifelong Republican, proud conservative, Rusty Bowers, when he resisted the demands of the Stop the Steal MAGA mob.
He received, my secretaries would say, in excess of 20,000 emails and tens of thousands of voicemails and texts, which saturated our offices and we were unable to work, or at least communicate. But at home, up till even recently, it is the new pattern, or a pattern in our lives, to worry what will happen on Saturdays, because we have various groups come by. There was one gentleman that had the 3 bars on his chest, and he had a pistol. At the same time, on some of these, we had a daughter who was gravely ill, who was upset by what was happening outside. And my wife, that is a valiant person, very, very strong, quiet, very strong woman. So it was disturbing. It was disturbing.
Truly disturbing and disgusting. So let me again read out the words of Rusty Bowers from just last week in The Guardian. The thought that if you don't do what we like, then we will just get rid of you and march on and do it ourselves, that to me is fascism. Those aren't the words of Joe Biden or AOC or anyone else in the Democratic Party. That is a lifelong Republican who has served in public office for decades. Arizona House Speaker Rusty Bowers joins me now. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. It is so sad to hear what happened to you and your family after the 2020 election, especially to your late daughter, who sadly passed away, I know, last year, that she and you had to endure these fascistic threats of violence against your family. I have to ask, are you still getting threats like that from Republican Trump supporters in Arizona?
No, it has been some time since we had visitors to our house, and I can tell you, thankfully, we don't miss them.
Well, that is some small comfort. Let me ask you about your quote in The Guardian that I began the show with. You mentioned fascism. What does fascism in America in 2022 look like? And does the modern-day GOP meet that definition?
I have many, many, many friends who are members of the GOP. They don't act in that way at all. They are horrified at what's happening in their party. I am one of those people, even though I'm disgraced, quote unquote. And so when we generalize that it's the party as if it was all the party, I would say, no, it's not. But it is definitely a loud and threatening and intimidating and angry, by choice, part of the party that is intimidating others into either acquiescence or silence, or, as in most cases of propaganda, highly propagandized people, they go to one side or the other and they bury themselves in one side or the other in order to protect themselves. There's no other options except to leave the field. And I have no intention of leaving the field. And so as far as a party, no, I don't believe that the party is embracing fascist tactics. I do know that in Arizona, the intimidation of the leadership of the party, not necessarily membership in the party, but the leadership is highly intimidating, and their tactic is get rid of you. You're nothing. We'll get rid of you. To me, that reminds me of Mussolini.
Wow. You mentioned Arizona and the Arizona GOP. There's a very troubling profile of the Arizona Republican Party in the New York Times Magazine, theorizing that backlash to liberal demographic and social change in that state, in your state, is to blame for the radicalization of your state's Republican Party. Why do you think what happened in Arizona happened in Arizona? What is driving the push to the far right? Is it racial change?
The change is on both sides. Both sides in this election in Arizona pushed to the radical edge. And ours certainly did, but so did theirs. And so
what do you mean by that?
This thing is like I have two cartels in Arizona, that's a familiar term, on the left and on the right. And they both demand, at the point of expulsion or violence or emotional violence, bullying, that they will bully somebody away and get rid of them out of the sphere entirely. There's no tolerance for any other language than their own. And
but surely you're not equating that, for example, the pressure put on Kyrsten Sinema to vote with her party and get rid of the filibuster with the death threats that people on the Arizona GOP, such as yourself, have faced, with people like Kari Lake, who want to lock up Anthony Fauci, who want to overturn a democratic election. There's no equivalence there, is there?
I don't know what Kyrsten went through. I don't know. I do know that Kari Lake and Mr. Fincham and others have said some most radically intimidating and foolish and childish things. which is alienated
Dangerous.
a lot. I think it is dangerous because, and it's not dangerous in the extreme of everyone. You just need one. You just need one person who wants to prove that they are true, that they are more patriotic than anybody else, and that they have no scruples as to how to show that overzealous patriotism. You just need one.
Some critics might say that when we talk about the Arizona GOP's shift to the far right, to people like Blake Masters and Kari Lake and all of these people, the Paul Gosars of this world, that you as a senior member of that party, long-standing, you're not a bystander, you are a high-ranking member of the Republican Party. Do you take some responsibility for the far-right authoritarian turn that your party has taken in Arizona, especially since you yourself campaigned for Donald Trump in previous elections?
I don't think, I think if I was to take responsibility for how he acted, that would be foolish on my part. I didn't provoke him to do that.
But how about the Arizona GOP? Okay, forget Trump. How about the Arizona GOP?
I don't provoke the Arizona GOP to act in that fashion. I don't act that way. I act in a much different fashion, as do many of my peers. But there are many and more in this last election who do. And they've accepted that as the new norm, and that's justifiable in their mind. And that's part of the danger of Donald Trump. That's what he legitimized in our so-called public discourse. It's just truly just a form of public intimidation.
Given that your party in Arizona does now have people like Blake Masters running for the Senate, Kari Lake running for governor, Mark Finchem running for Secretary of State, very extreme candidates running for crucial offices, is there any saving the Arizona GOP? Can it be saved? How do you take it back? Looks like the trend is all in the other direction.
Well, I have lived a while, and Martin Luther's quote comes to mind: "The drunken sailor will, after falling from one side of the mule, upon remounting, fall from the other side of the mule." I just want him to sober up and ride. That's what. And if we can get ourselves after some cathartic experience, which may be coming at us this November and beyond, where so many people leave the party because they're disenchanted and want no part of this emotional thuggery, that they will leave. And you have to have numbers. You're supposed to be growing a party. And the doctrine, the ideology hasn't changed. It's the abusive mentality that is the new doctrine of those who wish to exemplify that.
Before we run out of time, I do just want to ask a quick question about some of your testimony at the 1-6 committee. Rudy Giuliani, former Trump lawyer, former mayor of New York, is already in trouble, in legal trouble, in Georgia for his alleged election meddling. He called you in the wake of the 2020 election as well, didn't he? What did you speak about then, and how much trouble do you think Rudy Giuliani could be in?
Yeah, I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a lawyer. So whatever they do is up to them. I just know that what he did in trying to coax, provoke, intimidate in his way, and he never said, "I'm going to get you," or anything like that, but he was very forceful in what he wanted. He felt that as loyal Republicans, we should line up, but we didn't. And so he definitely wanted us to accept unproven claims, and upon my constant demand for more proof than just words, there was never any. And so maybe it's some type of fraud. I wouldn't know, but I'll leave that up to prosecutors.
Last quick question. You've said that you won't vote for Donald Trump again, and I don't think anyone would blame
That's
you.
True.
But if it's Joe Biden versus Donald Trump again in 2024, as looks likely, will you vote for Joe Biden in the crucial swing state of Arizona to stop a return to power of Donald Trump?
I'm not happy with Joe Biden. I'm not happy with where our country is now. We're stuck between two extremes, but I will vote.
True that you're stuck between two choices. I'm just wondering which one you'd make.
I would write in with my pen the name of a morally driven, who has a moral compass that can lead and do a good job as president. And it may not be either one of those two, but it certainly won't be Donald.
And I appreciate that principled position on your end, but just practically, you and I both know it's a two-party system. If not voting for Biden allows Trump to come back in a place like Arizona, you're okay with that?
I didn't say that at all. I said, I have a responsibility before God to do the best I can. And I won't be put in a box, but I will do the best I can. And I don't think that he's going to be the guy. I think America's getting very, very tired of him and of this constant hyperbole and rhetoric that he spouts. And they're getting tired of it. And there's going to be a justice. And they're just going to move away to somebody better.